Long ago, in a village deep within the dense forest of what is now Nigeria, there lived a king named Oba. King Oba was a cruel and greedy ruler, feared by his people for his harsh punishments and insatiable hunger for power. Under his reign, the villagers suffered greatly, for he taxed them heavily, took their best harvests, and demanded their most beautiful daughters as his concubines. Despite the wealth he amassed, Oba was never satisfied. His palace was filled with gold, ivory, and precious stones, yet his heart remained as cold as the stone that adorned his throne. The villagers whispered in fear of him, praying that the gods would one day deliver them from his tyranny. One day, a mysterious traveler came to the village. He was an old man, frail and bent with age, yet his eyes gleamed with a light that belied his appearance. The villagers watched as he approached the palace, his steps slow but determined. When he reached the gates, the guards crossed their spears to block his way, but the old man did not falter. "I seek an audience with King Oba," the old man said, his voice strong and clear. The guards laughed. "The king has no time for beggars," one of them sneered. The old man smiled gently. "Tell your king that the spirit of the forest wishes to speak with him." The guards exchanged uneasy glances but were too afraid to disobey the king. They relayed the message, and to their surprise, King Oba ordered them to let the old man in. The king, always curious about anything that could bring him more power, thought that the spirit of the forest might have something of value to offer. The old man was brought before King Oba in the grand hall, where the king sat on his throne, surrounded by his wealth and flanked by his advisors. The air was thick with tension as the old man stood before the king, his head bowed slightly in respect. "Why have you come here, old man?" King Oba demanded, his voice cold. The old man raised his head, his eyes locking onto the king's. "I come with a warning, great king. Your greed and cruelty have angered the spirits of the land. They have sent me to offer you a chance at redemption." The king laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the hall. "Redemption? I am the king. I need no redemption." The old man remained calm. "Even the greatest of kings must answer to the spirits, Oba. They have seen your heart and know that it is black with greed. They offer you a choice: give up your wealth and rule with kindness, or face their wrath." Oba's eyes narrowed. "And if I refuse?" The old man sighed, a sound filled with sadness. "Then your fate is sealed. The spirits will strip you of everything you hold dear, and you will be left with nothing." The king scoffed and waved his hand dismissively. "Begone, old man. I have no time for your nonsense." The old man bowed once more. "Very well, Oba. Remember, you have been warned." With that, he turned and left the palace, his steps as slow and steady as before. Days passed, and King Oba gave little thought to the old man's warning. He continued to rule with an iron fist, growing ever more cruel and demanding. But strange things began to happen in the village. The crops that had once flourished withered and died, the rivers dried up, and a strange illness began to spread among the people. The villagers, desperate and frightened, remembered the old man's warning and begged the king to heed it. But Oba, blinded by his arrogance, refused. He ordered his soldiers to capture the old man, but no one could find him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. One night, as the king lay in his bed, he was awakened by a terrible noise, a low, rumbling growl that seemed to shake the very walls of his palace. He sat up, his heart pounding, and saw a figure standing at the foot of his bed. It was the old man, but his appearance had changed. His eyes glowed with an eerie light, and his frail body was surrounded by a dark, swirling mist. "Oba," the old man said, his voice echoing with the power of the spirits. "You have ignored the warning. Now, you will face the consequences." Before the king could respond, the mist engulfed him. He felt a terrible pain as his body twisted and changed, his wealth slipping away from him like sand through his fingers. When the mist cleared, Oba was no longer a man. He had been transformed into a hideous beast, a monstrous creature that reflected the darkness of his soul. The beast that had once been King Oba fled into the forest, where he roamed, cursed and alone, for the rest of his days. The village, freed from his tyranny, began to heal. The crops grew once more, the rivers flowed, and the illness that had plagued the people vanished. The villagers, grateful for their deliverance, built a shrine to the spirit of the forest and honored the old man's warning. And from that day on, they ruled themselves with kindness and respect for the spirits that watched over them. As for King Oba, his name was forgotten, his palace crumbled into ruins, and his wealth was reclaimed by the earth. The only memory of his reign was the occasional sighting of a shadowy beast deep within the forest, a reminder of the fate that awaits those who let greed and cruelty rule their hearts.